Nikki Haley served in the South Carolina House of Representatives for 3 terms before she became the first female governor in the state's history back in 2011. She went on to a job in the Trump administration as the 29th U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, where she brought smart diplomacy and an American first agenda all over the world. We're very happy to have her with us tonight. Please welcome Ambassador Nikki Haley. Well, you are loved in this audience, and I'm not surprised. You made a name for yourself at the UN.
You know, well, yes, we'll talk about that. But I have to tell you, and I've said this to you before, this is the coolest studio of any of the studios. I mean...
Thank you. Thank you.
I love my friends, you know, Glenn Beck and Dave Ramsey. They've got great studios, but yours is just awesome. It really is very cool. So.
Well, thank you. We tend to think it's the most fun place to do an interview.
I think it is. I think it is.
I'm so delighted to have you back, and in part because there's so much going on that you can speak to because of your time at the UN. You saw the world at a level that most of us never will. And we're seeing the crisis in Ukraine. A year ago, we saw a horrible situation with the withdrawal in Afghanistan. As you look at the world stage, what is it that America is doing that's really putting our own citizens at risk?
You know, what I found at the UN is when America leads, the world is safer. When we speak, the world follows. What we do, the world wants. Who we are, the world wants to be. And when we don't do that, the world feels in disarray. And when you look at our foreign policy, you go back to Afghanistan and you think, here we are. We left Bagram Air Force Base in the middle of the night without telling our allies, who we stood shoulder to shoulder with for 2 decades, because we asked them to be there. Think about the message that showed our friends. Think about the message that told our enemies. Then remember when the Russians hacked our pipeline and the food processing plant?
Yeah.
They didn't do that to destabilize us. They did that to see how we would react. And what'd we do? Nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
Then you look at the fact that Biden's falling all over himself to get into the Iran deal. And Iran doesn't even allow us in the room, and we allowed the lead negotiator to be Russia? Think about that. All of those things are a green light to every dictator that's ever wanted to do anything. And that's why you look at the fact that Putin made his move, because he knew never again would we be this weak, that we could just watch. And now we're watching this war on Ukraine. And I'll tell you, this isn't just about Ukraine. This is a war on freedom. And it's a war we have to win.
But Ambassador, you know, we were told that if Joe Biden becomes president, the adults will be back in charge and we'll have folks with experience. We had 4 years of peace without starting a war under Donald Trump. The Iranians didn't want to make a move. Russia didn't invade anybody. I mean, it was a very different kind of world stage. Maybe they didn't like Trump, but they respected him and they were scared of him.
Well, and I can tell you, at the United Nations, we spoke with a very firm voice. And, you know, the president and I played these roles that, you know, when North Korea was testing ballistic missiles and we were trying to get the largest sanctions in a generation, you know, I would always say, look, this is what needs to happen. And I can't promise you what the president's going to do. And so, you know, I would call the president and I'd say, okay.
And everybody believed that, didn't they? Yeah.
And I would call the president and say, this is how I'm playing it. He's like, make me sound crazy. Make me sound crazy. Like he was always. And so we played off of each other, but it worked. And it was, the president was unpredictable.
Yeah.
He never showed his cards. And we had a strong tone, and that mattered. And that's why you didn't see the chaos in the world. That's why you saw countries tiptoe around us, because we didn't care if they liked us.
Yeah.
But we did want them to respect us. And we had that then. We don't have that now.
One of my proudest moments of you was when you stood at the United Nations and you vigorously and passionately defended our relationship with Israel at a time when many of the other Security Council members were ready to throw Israel right under the bus and basically surrendered to the Iranians and to the enemies of freedom in Israel. this past president, President Trump, achieved the Abraham Accords, historic. And it was almost like the press never gave him the credit for how big a deal that was. Would you remind America just how big a deal it was to get the Abraham Accords accomplished?
Absolutely remarkable, truly remarkable, because when I stepped foot in the United Nations, which is not for the faint at heart, by the way, we always knew we'd have a fight. We just didn't know which country we were going to fight that day. But they all bashed Israel. They all bashed Israel. And we started calling them out on it. And, you know, I'll take you to the point where we decided to move our embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, a very courageous moment for the president.
Yeah. What are the implications for us sort of just looking the other way as China does whatever they want to, whether it's release a virus or cheat on the trade agreements that they've supposedly signed? What's the problem?
It's a massive national security threat. I mean, if you look at what China is doing, they have built up their military. They now have the largest naval fleet in the world. They have more advanced air systems, air defense systems than we do. They continue to steal intellectual property. No one's holding them accountable. The human rights abuses are horrific, but because it's China, no other country wants to call them out on it. The thing that bothers me the most is President Xi started a commission a few years back that he personally chairs that says any company that does business with China has to cooperate with the Chinese military. Think about all of our financial data. Think about all of our healthcare data. Think about our kids' data and know that the Chinese military have that. President Xi has always said, whoever owns the data rules the world. And we're watching that happen. These are the things we have to be very careful of. And the Ukraine war taught us that when dictators say something, we need to believe them. When China said they were going to take Hong Kong, they did.
Yeah.
When Russia said they were going to take Ukraine, we saw them do that. If China says they're going to take Taiwan, it's not if, it's when. If Russia says they want Poland and the Baltics next, we need to believe them. China is making its moves. They recently said that the Taiwan Strait was not international waters. They're starting to fly jets over Taiwan. I mean, they're really getting more aggressive, and we need a strong America that's ready to move when that happens.
100% couldn't agree more. Nikki Haley, thank you very much. Now, if you want to keep up with Ambassador Nikki Haley, we have all the connections that you're going to need at Huckabee.tv, so you can go there and link to the ambassador. Also, we have a link to pre-order her new book. It'll be coming out later this year, but you can go ahead and pre-order it, something you'll probably want to do and read. It's called If You Want Something Done, Leadership Lessons from Bold Women.